Welcome to Biblical Basis for Political Leadership. This is Lesson 1, Module Overview. Here are a couple of quotes to begin this lesson. Behold, I am laying in Zion a stone, a tested stone, a costly cornerstone for the foundation, firmly placed. He who believes in it will not be disturbed. Isaiah 28:16. Nose teupsum, which simply means in Latin, know thyself. In this first module, Biblical Basis for Political Leadership, we will examine the scriptural foundations for why we should be involved in our political system. You may be surprised that many of the heroes of the Bible responded to the need to rise up against unscrupulous leaders who use their positions to benefit themselves at the expense of the people. If we are to use the political process to save our nation, we need to review these lessons lest we become the same sort of leaders we now detest. When looking at secular political leadership, we see that it's all about power. Moses, for example, came from a background of privilege and authority. He was used to giving commands and having them obeyed. As a prince of Egypt, Moses cared little for the thoughts of others. He was used to doing things his way. But God's plan for political leadership is fundamentally about servant leadership. The biblical basis for political leadership is about applying this understanding. We'll examine several leaders in the Bible, and we'll see how God molded them to lead His people in an immoral world. In this first module, Biblical Basis for Political Leadership, we will provide you with a solid understanding of Christian servant leadership. We'll examine the need for godly leaders, and you'll learn about God's plan for delegation, and how godly leaders put the needs of their people above their own interests. This module will reveal when and how to act to right a wrong, and it will motivate us to learn to live as good citizens. As way of introduction, let's apply the story of Moses to political leadership here in the United States. Moses had to change from being a prince of Egypt, leading by dictating, to becoming God's instrument to lead the Israelites out of bondage by uniting 12 tribes into one nation. He had to build a team. Have you ever read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich? It was first published in 1937, and it noted 5 areas in which new leadership would be needed. Now listen to these, because this was written in 1937. First, in the field of politics. Second, in the field of industry. Third, in the field of banking. Fourth, in the field of religion. And fifth, in the professions of law, medicine, and education. Now certainly, if you turned on the news and listened to the talking heads, you could hear them saying pretty much the same thing today. However, I think there's just one that is missing that we need to turn to next. While certainly we need new leaders, a good question to ask is, what kind of leaders are we looking for? Well, a gentleman by the name of Rushworth Kidder wrote a book titled Agenda for the 21st Century back in 1988. He interviewed 22 world-renowned statesmen, philosophers, scientists, and educators, and asked them this question: what are the major issues that will face humanity in the 21st century? Well, a number of issues emerged. One that appeared again and again in the course of those interviews was, quote, the real deterioration of public morality. One of the things that I felt as I had an opportunity at one point in time to listen to him speak about his book was that there was a particular type of leader that was missing from his conversation. We know we need new leaders, but what kind of leaders? Well, we don't just need new leaders, we need godly leaders. And we don't just need godly leaders, we need godly leaders committed to a vision for the long haul. William Wilberforce was known as God's politician. He was a member of the British Parliament who worked for 20 years to abolish the slave trade, and that's how he became known as God's politician. Do we have Christians today willing to work at the purpose God has appointed them for that length of time? At this point, I'd like to suggest that you stop the video and take time to discuss with some others what events have caused you to want to become involved in politics. What thoughts do you have on the need to have not just new leaders, but godly leaders? Do you know the story of William Wilberforce? Take some time to research his life. Discuss these ideas with some friends or family to gain and share ideas and perspectives.